The Corvallis School Board meeting for February 3rd, 2022 is called to order. If you're willing and able, please join me to the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome. Oregon law allows public meetings to be held entirely online in the interest of public health and safety for all community members, especially for immunocompromised individuals and their families. The Corvallis School Board will continue to hold its meetings online. Public comment is available at some of our meetings. Information about how to provide public comment is available on the Corvallis School District website. Additionally, the board's agenda and packet, as well as the link to the district's YouTube channel, are available on the school board page on the district's website. Public meetings are live streamed on the district's YouTube channel, and a recording is posted to the same channel, typically the day after the meeting. I am grateful that this technology makes it possible for more community members to view and participate in school board meetings, given the flexibility provided by Oregon law. A roll call is taken. Tonight, we have Directors Co-Vice Chair Sarah Finger-McDonald and Chair Sonia Radrobo in attendance in person, and Directors Co-Vice Chair Louis White-Bear, Director Therese Jones, Director Vince Adams, Director Shauna Tomini, available through video and audio. Due to technology and connectivity limitations, some virtual participants attending may have their video off some or at all times. Director Tina Baker is excused. Now, as I shared at the last meeting, I indicated my intentions, and I am stepping down as a board chair effective this evening, pending the successful nomination of a new board chair. In the interest of continuity of leadership, it is customary for the vice chair or one of the co-vice chairs to move up to a chair. And this evening, we will vote to move co-vice chair Sarah Finger-McDonald to chair. And I would encourage, or I would suggest her nomination to the position. Co-vice chair White-Bear will finish out her term, and we will vote in another co-vice chair to fill the remaining co-vice chair vacancy. So with that, let's start with the first item on the agenda, election of board officers. We do not need a motion, just names of people you would like to nominate for a position of board chair for the remainder of 2021-2022. Does anyone wish to make a nomination?
I would like to
Director
nominate
Adams.
Sarah Finger-McDonald to serve as board chair for the remainder of the 21-22 year.
Thank you, Director Jones. Would
I
you accept? Awesome. Is there any further, Calvin, do you have a comment?
I don't know if I'm allowed to nominate, but I back the nomination of Sarah Finger-McDonald as board chair.
Thank you, with much appreciation, and student voice is very important in every process, including this one. So with that, is there any further nominations? Is there any further nominations? Is there any further nominations? Seeing there is no further nominations, the nominations now are closed. I think we need to take a vote. Is that correct? Yes, so let's take a vote. There is no motion necessary. The chair will entertain a vote on appointing Director Sarah Finger-McDonald for the position of chair for the remainder of the academic school year. So let's take a vote. Director Therese Jones,
Aye.
Director Shauna Tomini,
But can I also make a pause? I don't mean to interrupt, but I guess I'd just like
Absolutely.
to have confirmation that Director Sarah Finger McDonald would like to move forward with the nomination. Okay, so then I vote aye.
Awesome. Director Vince Adams,
Aye.
Co-Vice Chair Louis White Bear,
Aye.
and is there anyone missing? Co-Vice Chair Sarah Finger McDonald.
Aye.
And Chair Drumbo votes aye, 6-0. The motion passes unanimously, and the motion to reconsider is laid on the table. Congratulations, directors and members of the board. Superintendent Ryan Noss, I introduce you to the new 509J Chair Sarah Finger McDonald. I'll be passing the gavel to Chair Sarah Finger McDonald, and she would be residing on the rest of the meeting.
Thank you. I guess I have some comments, but I'll save them to the end of the meeting because let's keep going. So now we turn to electing a co-vice chair. Again, we don't need a motion. We just need names of people you would like to nominate for the one open position of board co-vice chair for the remainder of the 2021-22 school year. Do I have any nominations?
I nominate Lou White Bear.
So Lou's
Already a co-vice chair.
Yeah, so she's remaining.
So,
in
so,
her-
so we're retaining our co-vice
So
chair.
we're retaining the co-vice chairs.
So, Chair Sarah McDonald, I would nominate Director Shauna Tomini for the vacant co-vice chair position.
Director Tomini, do you accept the nomination?
Thank you for asking. I do, but I'll also ask the question of it. I know I'm really the newest member serving on the school board, and so I'm curious if there are others who have perhaps served longer, who are interested in serving in that role, as eager as I am to serve and learn in that position.
It's kind of you to ask. I was about to nominate you, so I feel very comfortable moving forward with your nomination. And in anticipation of any awkwardness, if I were to be nominated, I would decline it. So I very happily put my support behind Director Tomini.
Thank you for sharing that, Therese. That's helpful to hear because I did want to make space for you if this was an opportunity that you were interested in.
Does anyone else wish to make a nomination? Hearing no objections or further nominations, the nominations are closed. So now we need to take a vote on the nomination. So let's start with Director Adams,
Aye.
Director Alagrava,
Aye.
Director Jones,
Aye.
Director Whitebear, or co-vice chair Whitebear,
Aye.
Director Tomini,
Aye.
and I vote aye. Welcome to the leadership team, co-vice chair Tomini.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we move on to the next item on our agenda, which is board member reports. Does anyone have anything they wish to share? Co-vice chair Whitebear.
I mean, I would save this for the comments, but I think it's because our meeting's going to be long. I would like to just say happy Black History Month to our community and encourage the rest of the community to take an opportunity not just learn about Black history and futures this month, but every month. And also wishing a happy Lunar New Year. I know it was a couple of days ago, to community members who also celebrate. And I did also have a couple things to report on in addition to that, but I wanted to start with that. And one is I was able to attend another affinity group for the LGBTQ plus affinity group, and they're really excited about some stuff planned for Pride Month and other things going on with that. And also the vaccine group meeting outreach. I'm really proud of the work being done by that group and seeing the positive impact in the community when it comes to helping provide access. And then there was one more thing I attended, and now I'm like, oh, it was this morning because it was so early. The Hands Across Corvallis was beautiful, and I just wanted to encourage folk, even if you can't contribute, to take a look at the video that's on the Corvallis School Foundation pages on their Facebook and on their YouTube video or page, to take a look at the really amazing work that's happening out in the schools and hear from some students and staff, and just wanted to encourage that. And it was a little bit early for me, but it was great to be able to watch that and participate live in virtual community. So that was it.
Thank you. Director Adams?
I was having trouble unmuting. I too, I was able to attend Hands Across Corvallis and just was feeling immense gratitude in that moment for, all the work that the foundation does, but for really the people. And I'm really looking at the superintendent and all his staff and the close coordination that they do with the foundation to bring all those wonderful assets to our staff, our teaching staff, and to our children, and the immense impact that they have had over the last year. And of course, the long partnership that we've had with the foundation. So it was just a very exciting, it was wonderful to be able to see inside our buildings. I don't think people realize that this school board has not had an opportunity to be in our education spaces for 2 years, over 2 years. And so it was wonderful to be able to see children learning and see teachers teaching in schools. It's something that we haven't been able to see. And so it was very invigorating. A couple of weeks ago, I was able to join the Home Opportunity Planning and Equity Advisory Board. It's called the HOPE Board. Their focus is on homelessness, not specifically with children, but in general for the whole county. They heard a data report from Brad Smith, who is a practitioner in that field on just homelessness that's happening in the county. One of the things that really stood out was that while they have added capacity to our emergency housing system, both emergency shelters and transitional housing, that has been taken up. So there is pent-up demand for housing. We knew this, but one of the things that they reported, and it was really echoed what the board heard from our own staff in their work serving our unhoused children, is that coordination between agencies, it seems to be at an all-time high, that there seems to be a lot of capacity out there, that agencies are really focusing on this issue, and that agencies are working well together, but there's still a lot of need out there. So the hope is getting their work for the year started, and I'll be continuing to sit in with them. Thank you.
Director Jones?
Thank you, Board Chair Finger McDonald. I think that if the meeting wasn't going to be so long, I would save this for the end, but it's going to be so long that I'm not going to, because there might be people in the community actually still tuned in with us right now or joining right now. And so I wanted to take a moment and report out my gratitude for Sammy's leadership over the last almost 3 years. I have tremendous respect for the work that you do in our community, Sammy, and I'm very excited to see Director Finger McDonald become board chair. It is bittersweet because I feel we've had a very effective working relationship with you as chair, and I particularly just have felt just your leadership. And so I just wanted to say that while there are still people listening out there, so they could hear that it's been a pleasure to be a board member under your leadership. And so thank you for that. And also wanted to just make sure that the community realizes that we have a female board chair and a female co-vice chair and a female co-vice chair. And we continue to have communities of color represented on our board. And so I just hope the community looks at the board and sees the efforts that we have made to make sure that we, as best as we can, that we are reflecting the community that we live in, the diverse community that we live in. And so I'm very excited for this season of leadership. And I just wanted to say that I don't think we could have a better team of leaders to bring us into finishing out this year and preparing for what will come as things continue to shift. So anyway, so welcome, Director Tomini and Chair. It's going to take a minute to get used to that, but Board Chair Mayor McDonald and Dr. White, for continuing your leadership. And Sarah, I think Sammy will tell you that I text him a lot. So you should get ready for that, because I have a lot of questions. So anyway, but thank you all. And thank you, Sammy.
Thank you.
Director Ella.
Thank you, Chair Finger McDonald, and I want to share my gratitude to Director John's words, kind words, and it's been and continues to be the honor of my lifetime to work with this board and lean on the counsel and advice of my colleagues, and I'll continue to support this work, and I'm really grateful. And one of the things I'm very grateful for is the model of leadership that we have, where we have the co-vice chairs. It's a model that the largest two school boards or largest two districts in Oregon now are considering this model that we have started. So it's something to really be proud of, and I'm grateful for this stability and continuity of leadership that we have. Another thing I want to report is a presentation to the Women's Fellowship at the Congregational Unitarian Church. And I was very grateful to share some words around the advancing racial equity and social justice in education and government, and how community members can be engaged in that work, and shared some of the transformational policies that the school board has passed in the past few years, including also understanding of the role of school boards, governmental boards, and elected officials as delegates and trustees. It was really engaging conversation, and I had the opportunity also to talk about and listen to comments around contemporary issues like age-appropriate curriculum and math education and all of these issues. So grateful for that opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I had the opportunity this last week to attend as the board liaison to the SEAC meeting, which is the Special Education Advisory Committee. And that committee has, you know, like a lot of things, used the pandemic and some changes that have happened to kind of rework how they've done some things. And so it was great. Their meetings are now happening in the evening, and they have simultaneous interpretation happening in Spanish to make the information accessible to more families. This past meeting, Sean Bernard, who just joined our district to work with special education, talked and basically gave a sort of tutorial on the alphabet soup of special education. So it was really useful, helpful information. I know that it's often intimidating to go into a meeting where you're trying to you get what your child needs in school, don't have all these letters thrown at you, don't you don't understand. So it was a good meeting. That said, I'm really excited about some of the directions they're going in. And I'm happy to remain the SEAC liaisons, if anybody else would like to take on that role, I would be happy to pass the baton as I take on the board chair position. This weekend, I will be attending the OSBA Legislative Policy Committee meeting on Zoom. So that work continues. And I also want to remind board members that on Fridays at noon, there's a legislative update from OSBA. So if you're interested in that information, I can help you figure out how to get connected to that. I also went to Hands Across Corvallis today. Since everybody gave their comments they were going to make at the end of the meeting, I'm going to make mine right now. I was thinking about that theme of gratitude and renewal. And so a year ago, almost exactly a year ago, I missed the foundation fundraiser because I was in the hospital facing a cancer diagnosis. And so I'm really grateful to be on the other side of cancer treatment, successful cancer treatment. And I am extremely grateful to this board and to the district staff for supporting me so that I could continue this work that just feels so critical and important. Right now, I'm grateful to Sammy for remaining chair for an extra 6 months when I was not able to take over. And I'm really grateful to the contributions you made for this community and the work that you do in this community, both in the district and the school district and in the other work that you do. I think we are better for having you in our community, and I'm really grateful for the work you do. So looking forward, I'm grateful for the opportunity to chair this board and the trust you've given me, and through you that the community has given me to steer the ship for a little while. So today we are halfway between the winter solstice and the spring equinox. So our days are going to be getting brighter. And knock on wood, we've turned the corner on Omicron. And so I'm feeling hopeful that we will move forward and with a feeling of renewal as we continue to do this work that's so critical for all of our kids. So thank you. Any other comments? Now let's move on then to our superintendent's report.
That was a great way to bookend the comments. So, and with so many positives. So thank you for doing that. So a lot to be said for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's great to have you.
I'm glad to be here.
And with the role. So I have a couple of updates I wanted to share with you for my superintendent's report. You know, I go back and forth. Sometimes I add pictures, sometimes I add graphics, sometimes I just share. There's a couple of things I wanted to be able to share with you for you to be able to take a look at in my SUPS report today. So there'll be a couple of slides for you to look at as well. The first thing I wanted to highlight, as Dr. Whitebear initially did, was to highlight Black History Month. And so as we enter the month of February, the Corvallis School District invites you to join in observing and honoring Black history. February is a time for collective education and reflection as the Corvallis School District continues to deepen our commitment to social justice and becoming an anti-racist organization. We believe that deepening our collective understanding of Black history should be a year-round commitment. Last year, the school board adopted Resolution 21-0201, proclaiming February 21st, as well as each February annually as Black History Month in the district. The resolution strongly encouraged families, staff, and community members to join in existing local celebrations. Black History Month provides us with many opportunities to honor the countless examples of courage, resilience, generosity, empathy, and resolve. In observing Black History Month, we have an opportunity to deepen our understanding of our history. This month matters, and in the words of Martin Luther King Jr., the time is always right to do what is right. So during this month of February, we encourage you to seize this time to learn and do more, to engage in courageous conversations with others and celebrate this Black History Month with empathy and openness. And so the next slide has some activities that are happening in our area. This list are activities that are going on at OSU related to Black History Month. We'll also be sending this out to staff, so they will also have this list that they can reference throughout the month. I believe there's another slide that also shares other events that are going on at LBCC. And then we also have some from the city of Monmouth on the next slide. So again, there's a number of ways to celebrate, to be engaged. In my education report later on, I'll give an example of some student work related to Black History Month. That's exciting to share. But again, while February is Black History Month, the work we do around racial justice goes on throughout the year. And it's important for us to continue that focus and emphasis in our work here in CSD. So the next area I wanted to talk about before we get to the promise of Oregon and some of our students that have been recognized lately, which is super cool to be able to share with you. One of the things I wanted to let you know as a board is that we've had several applicants for the budget committee, strong applicants. And so my recommendation to you would be that I would work with Chair Finger McDonald to develop some questions and invite the candidates to meet with you at our next board meeting. So with support of that move, I'd like to do that. I'm recognizing that there are community members who would like to find ways and avenues of participating. I think that's budget committee is a way some of you first joined us and then moved into board positions. Sandy's a great example of that. And so where we have opportunities to bring folks on, I'd like us to consider them, and with two strong candidates, we'd like to meet with both of them. Does that sound okay?
Mhm.
Great.
Yeah.
Great. Community engagement, I've had a couple of opportunities, as you all know, and have talked about this morning was always a great opportunity with Hands Across Corvallis to meet with well over 300 members of the community and share what's going on in our school district and to hear student voice and the perspective of our teachers. So again, that was a great celebration. Also last night, I had the opportunity to also meet with Altrusa, to meet with another group of community volunteers and to share what's going on in our school district and for them to be thinking about ways that they can support our work. They've done incredible things over time. The library at College Hill is an example of their work, volunteerism there. And so again, looking at a community that has great volunteers and people who want to be engaged, how do we continue to create pathways for that to happen? So again, it's enjoyable to be able to spend the evening talking about all the successes in our school district. So if there's other groups and service organizations that are wanting us to come and share, we're always happy to share what's going on in CSD. Another thing I wanted to share is an update or new information. So we have put into the Qatar Foundation for a grant to bring Arabic language into CSD. We were notified that we would have received those grant dollars, which will allow us to have our Arabic club that we've had in the past. We've had one at Garfield. So we'll have an elementary and a middle school. And also at the high school, starting next school year, students can forecast into Arabic as a world language to take for credit. Folks who are speak a language other than Arabic, as well as native speakers, can sign up for that class and continue to develop Arabic as a language. So we feel really fortunate to be able to do that. We're aware of one other high school in Oregon, Lincoln High School has Arabic, but I'm not sure of other high schools that have that opportunity. So again, it's just a really unique, special opportunity for us to be able to expand. And as you know, over the years, we've had a lot of advocacy in this area. And so again, it's nice to be able to take that and move that forward. Several members of the community have walked alongside us in the application process. Bashir and Kais are two examples and folks that have been strong advocates over time. And I know they are excited to see what comes from this new opportunity for students. So wanted to share that with you as a highlight tonight. And then I did also want to share with you, we've talked about this a couple of times. OSBA has been doing the Promise of Oregon. And so every week or so, they're recognizing and highlighting one of the students from the Corvallis School District. And these are the students that have been highlighted so far. So the first one is Ruby Lopez Garcia. I'm the Promise of Oregon because I want the community to help and support more people with special needs like me. So that was Ruby in her own words. Mia Ray here. I'm the Promise of Oregon because I want to be a vet to help animals that are hurt. When I grow up, I also want to be a soccer player. You'll see that theme here for soccer players. But again, Catherine Jones Harrison was one of the schools, Linus Pauling as well. So the next one is from Linus Pauling student, Isaac Fleming, Promise of Oregon, because I'm self-driven and determined to achieve my goal of being the richest man alive. So look out, Jeff Bezos. Next one is Bennett Williams, who's also my neighbor. So got a special affinity for Bennett. I'm the Promise of Oregon because I want to be a police officer to help keep people safe. That's the screen blocking it. I'm the Promise of Oregon because I'm passionate about soccer and want to become a professional soccer player. And Michelle is a student at Linus Pauling. And that's it, but we will have another Promise of Oregon student tomorrow. So Friday we'll have another student from the school district represented. And again, it's just fun to be able to see them and hear about what their hopes and aspirations are. And I've seen this over the years, and it's just awesome to have it be our students right now. So I've also watch out. I know Sammy did an interview at one point in time, so I'm sure they will highlight the previous chair at some point. And with that, that's my superintendent's report. I have some additional information that I'll be sharing in the education report in just a little while. Questions for me?
Lynn?
It's not so much a question, more a comment, and I really appreciate hearing all the things in your report, and especially showing the community that we're not just saying we want people to celebrate Black History Month events, but you all took the time to actually find things for community to go to. And I just wanted to express appreciation for that, because it's one thing to encourage and another thing to actually provide some options for folk that they may not have known about. So just want to thank the staff for doing that.
Thank you. Calvin?
Yeah, I'd like to not only echo what Lou said, but I'd also want to express appreciation for Ryan and anyone else who's involved in getting Arabic to become a part of the school district. Because while I don't personally have any ties to the Arabic language, I know many people that do, and as someone who is passionate about languages, it is always great to have another option to students who want to learn more and expand their cultural.
And then if there aren't other questions, I have two other leadership announcements that I wanted to make too.
Sure.
So the first one is, as you learned on Friday, Nancy Davila Williams, who has been serving as the interim principal at Garfield, will be the permanent principal at Garfield. Having had conversation with staff and the support that Nancy's been able to provide, there is a strong support from the staff and a goodness of fit. One of the things we know is when we get to principal finalists, we're looking for that goodness of fit. Nancy's someone who went through Corvallis schools. She's taught in a DLI school at Garfield, served as dean as student, and now serving as principal. And so she's a tremendous fit there. And so I was excited to be able to share that with the community. The other thing I wanted to also be able to actually do as an introduction, and that's to Tanya Everest, who is the Lynn Benton Lincoln ESD superintendent. She has joined us tonight. And I'm going to give her a couple of minutes to talk about the local service plan, which is on the agenda, not for action, but for information. But before I do so, a little bit about Tanya. So Tanya is serving as the ESD superintendent, but prior to that role, she has been a member of school staff in 4 districts in our region. So she was a principal in Scioto, also in Lebanon, a director in Albany, and then she was also the principal at Bessie Coleman not too long ago. So has a really strong depth of knowledge with our region and has done a great job. One of the things I would highlight is that she has really moved us more into the area of teaching and learning. It was, I would say, a gap at the ESD for a number of years, and that's been something that she's been supportive and passionate about. And for next year, the superintendents are going to be doing some work together around doing some walkthroughs and coaching each other on feedback to principals. So we're really going to be looking more and more at instruction and what good teaching looks like. And I'm excited to be able to do that. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Tanya just to give a little bit of information about the local service plan, how it comes to be developed, and the process that goes into the approval process, both in our school districts as well as the ESD.
Thank you, Ryan. Appreciate that. And I am grateful for being here this evening. And I just want to add that I feel so connected to the Corvallis School District. So I really am feeling grateful tonight. And I would like to add that I was invited to and really enjoyed attending the Hands Across Corvallis this morning. And a little factoid is that Hannah Kime was a first grader in when I was student teaching at Harding Elementary School. And Harding principal, Irene Golden, was my kindergarten teacher in La Grande, Oregon. So anyway, just a fun fact. And so anyway, so now I get to serve you in a different capacity through our educational service district. And because ESDs are a unique part of the system in Oregon, I'm going to share just a little bit of background of what ESDs do and how this all works that we come to serve you. And then please ask any questions. And so in the statute, ESDs are carved out specifically in Oregon statute where we receive 4.5% of the state school fund. And we are charged with helping school districts with economy of scale in special education services, administration services, technology services, and why can't I think of the other one? Student improvement. And that when that money comes into us from your ADMW, 90% of the money that comes into us from the state school fund gets returned to school districts in a way that's directed by the superintendents of the school districts, telling us what their needs are. So how we go about doing that, it's a multi-layer process where my leadership team meets with the leadership teams of each of our 12 component school districts twice a year, making sure that we're in touch with the services that you need and that the services that we are providing you are giving you are quality and giving you what you need. So we, from those conversations and then from the conversations superintendents have, we go into an in-depth process twice a year, which we did last year where we completely redid our local service plan. The service didn't make too much of a change, but in wanting to bring our whole agency in alignment with the Meritorious Budget Award, where we're trying to communicate ways that are more accessible to all of our community, we redid our local service plan. So I hope you find that it's accessible and understandable of what the services are, because that's what our intent is to help our community understand those things. And so then after our superintendents, every fall, we take a look at our services and we determine what's going to be tier 1. Tier 1 services are the services that all 12 superintendents say they need as a collective. And so we provide them at an economy of scale. And we take the money that comes in for that 90%, and we pay for those Tier 1 services with that 90% of the funds. Usually, or historically always, there have been additional funds that aren't spent on Tier 1, and those become Tier 2 services. And Tier 2 services are designed so that each school district, because every school district is very unique in terms of what their needs are, they get to select amongst a menu of options to take those additional dollars and buy things that specifically meet their needs as a school district. After that's all determined, I bring it to my board, they approve it, and then each component school district board then is asked to approve a resolution once a year, reaffirming that they are in agreement that this local service plan meets the needs of your school district and our region. And that's just a quick overview. Not sure if you have any questions.
Any questions for Tanya? Sammy?
It's less of a question and more of an appreciation, Tanya, for your leadership in the LBL region and my awareness of how diligent and responsive you are for the needs of your individual districts. And I can mention a couple of examples, but for the time I want to summarize them by when our school district needed the supports and needed the ability to respond for the needs of our students, especially the most vulnerable. The ESD was there for us, and I'm very appreciative for that leadership and for that partnership. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Vince?
So I'd also like to express appreciation. You know, when I first came onto this board, the board discussed services. We discussed this resolution that we renew every year because they were not satisfied with the services. And that is not a discussion that we're having today. And I think it's because of the outstanding work that the ESD does for us today. And so thank you very much for that. Actually, I do have a kind of a nuts and bolts question. And I know that there are services that move between Tier 1 and Tier 2. And I'm just a little curious, how do those decisions get made in a little more detail?
Okay. Yes. Well, we go through each of the services, and when a service is being considered, like for a change or potentially adding a new service, our superintendents actually vote. And every actual student matters because each superintendent brings with them a vote for every one of their students. So to pass something and to bring something into Tier 2 services that are purchased first on behalf for the whole entire region, 2/3 of all students in our 3-county region need to be represented in that vote of affirmative. And 2/3 of our districts, 50% of our students and 2/3 of our districts must be in the affirmative in order to get those Tier 1 services with the first tier dollars. That makes sense.
That does make sense. Yeah, and that's really interesting. And then do services move between Tier 1 and Tier 2, or has that happened historically?
Yes. The most recent one that's occurred, well, there's a few, I can give a couple. One of the major ones is several years ago, just right before I came on as superintendent, the superintendents recognized that occupational therapy and physical therapy services are particularly difficult to secure, getting those professionals. And it's particularly difficult for our small districts. We're mostly made up of smaller school districts. And so it's nearly impossible to buy a 1-day-a-week occupational therapist for your district. And so occupational therapy and physical therapy, after some study and looking at some data, it was determined to add them rather than as a tier 2 service trying to buy portions. We would provide it in a tier 1. We provide it in tier 1. And so that's an example. An example of a service that is no longer in tier 1 that now is in tier 2 is internet service provider. Not all districts buy their ISP through us any longer. Some go out and secure that on their own in their own contract. And so it really fluctuates based on what the needs are of the school districts. And the other thing is I am trying really hard to, I think my experience having been in lots of different aspects of education helps me in this role, and constantly thinking, what are you just having the conversations, but also using my experience of knowing what do we need. And Ryan pointed out that we are expanding our services to students in terms of school improvement, the area of school improvement, that it was an area of weakness that I'm excited about. It's actually grown quickly. It's been 4 years since I've been on, and I've been trying to grow it every year. And this 4th year, I'm finally seeing some real momentum in terms of supporting new teachers, supporting new principals. Ryan mentioned one of the things that we're going to do next year as superintendents with walkthroughs of instruction. But I'm also thinking we're also touching on needs that we see the school districts need. For example, low voltage services, putting in wireless access points, projectors, those sorts of things that a lot of districts just don't have a low voltage electrician, and securing a low voltage electrician right now is very difficult and it's cost prohibitive. And so, but it's something that we can provide at a really amazing rate. We recognize the need that school districts have for cybersecurity right now. And we have just this year hired a cybersecurity engineer who actually he just a few months ago received his FBI clearance, and he sits on really Homeland Security boards. And so I'm really well prepared to actually probably next week we'll sell services to our first district to help the district stand up secure practices to reduce cyber crime and phishing and those sorts of things. Anyway, that's a little bit what we're up to.
Thank you so much for going down the rabbit hole. I really appreciate that detail. That helps me understand, and I didn't know those things. That's wonderful. Thank you so much. And thanks for being here, taking the time to be here with us and give us this information. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate it to being here. Thank you. Okay.
Brian, are you done?
That's it.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tanya. Also, it's good to see you. And I have the honor of sitting on the ESD budget committee, so I get to get through this information every year. But it's good to hear about the details like Vince asked about. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Sarah. We'll see you in a few months.
I'll see you soon. So next on the agenda is our student representative report, and it looks like we have 2 of our student representatives here today. So why don't we start with Calvin from Crescent Valley High School?
Yeah, and before I do that, I would like to extend my appreciation to Sammy for being a good chair. When I came in as a school board rep, beginning of last year, everything was different. Didn't really know what was going on because I was new to the role, and no one really knew what was going on because everyone's role had changed so dramatically. And so I'd like to just extend my appreciation to Sammy for being able to just lead us through that time and not only make me, but I'm sure all the other school board representatives feel welcome and like our voices were being heard. And I'm confident that Sarah will be able to do the same for all incoming school board representatives over the next years, and that she'll be the perfect leader to lead us out of this period and back into a more established period of normalcy. That being said, for my report now, this past month at Crescent Valley, we have been busy with our finals and end of semester, and that's kind of been central to all student activity and what everything's been planned around. And we met with Superintendent Noss on the 18th. CV's core council did, to discuss some of our concerns, and we felt we got a lot of the answers, but there were some questions that we didn't necessarily get the answers we want. And so I don't know if you already got this email from Charlotte, Ryan, but we're looking at inviting you back to a future meeting to discuss maybe some of those questions in more detail, and some other questions. And
Good.
I'd extend the invitation to any of the school board members that if they want to come in and sit in on one of our meetings, or if they want to like schedule a time when they can talk with our core council about questions that we might have or that you might have for us, that we are open to that. Our winter sports have been going pretty well. In particular, our boys basketball team is doing very well. We also have a couple of competitive clubs, such as our speech and debate team, which are doing well. On the front of student engagement for the whole student body, we had a trivia night that was well attended last Friday. And also this past week, we have been running daily events in our quad area that have sort of been like lunchtime games that we call the CV Olympics. Unfortunately, however, due to the increase in coronavirus cases in the past month, we did have to postpone our talent show, and it looks like that will be happening now early April. Another unfortunate casualty of coronavirus is this year's Raider Royalty event won't be happening. And so as of this past Tuesday, our core council has started to brainstorm fundraising ideas for how we can get the money that normally would come from Raider Royalty to the charities that we normally donate to. And I would strongly encourage any members of the community to donate to charities. In particular, the one that Raider Royalty normally goes to is Jackson Street. So yeah, that's kind of it for the past month of CV.
Thank you, Calvin. Does anyone have questions for Calvin? Shona.
Thank you. Calvin, thanks so much for your update. You mentioned that that Superintendent Noss had met with the core council there and that there were some concerns and challenges coming up from students. I was wondering if you could just tell us just a little bit, or maybe just name a couple of those challenges that you're hearing coming up for students so that we as a board can hear that too.
Yeah, and I think I mentioned this one at the last board meeting. We had the concern about the COVID alerts and whether those were going to students individually. There was also some concerns over like safety, like what was being canceled and what wasn't being canceled, and reasons behind that and how some of that was working. We had questions about the district complaint forms and whether those could be anonymous, and if so, how could we pursue that, and if not, what avenues could be taken. And if I'm missing anything, Ryan, feel free to correct me. And I think that was the general gist of the meeting. There was something I feel that we ran out of time to talk about that I can't remember off the top of my head, but that was the general gist from what I remember.
Yeah, I think that's a good summary, Calvin. Those were the three that stood out to me too.
Thanks, Calvin. I really appreciate you sharing that with us.
Any other questions for Calvin? Calvin, thank you for your vote of confidence in my leadership going forward. And thank you for the information you shared. So our second student representative who's here tonight is Kylie Sullivan from Corvallis High School.
Yeah, currently at Corvallis, we just finished our finals and we're going to start next semester. We have a couple events coming up, such as Winter Formal, the Polar Plunge, and we're going to have a dodgeball tournament in this month of February. And we're also going to sell candy grams for Valentine's Day.
Kylie, can you be lost
going on
you
here?
for a few minutes there? Can you, it might work better if you turn off your camera, actually, 'cause sometimes when your audio and camera are both competing for space, it's hard. Are you frozen?
Okay, hear me now.
Yeah, it sounds a little bit better, yeah. Now we lost you again.
Hello? At CFG, we finished our finals and we're going to start next semester. And then February, we have Winter Formal coming up and we have the Polar Plunge, which is
We lost you again. Kylie, we lost you again.
the special.
Now we've lost her altogether. Kylie, if you are can still hear us, you've got the YouTube on or something, you could send us your report by email and then it would be shared with the whole board. And I will send you an email too, asking you for that. So that if you're missing this comment that I'm making right now, because you're not logged in, we'll make sure that you get the information about what's going on at Corvallis High School to us. So thank you for trying. It looked like you were actually at Corvallis High School based on the tiles in the background. So taking a break from something you were doing. Calvin, do you have another comment or question?
Yeah, it was just sort of like, from what I was hearing, it sounded like she was talking about how they were planning a winter formal and they were going to have a dodgeball tournament in the next month, but they were also preparing for the polar plunge, which from my understanding is generally you run into the Willamette and you like pay money to the Willamette when it's freezing and it goes to charity. So that's what I was thinking from that.
You pay money to get really cold. I actually have done a polar plunge for charity before, so crazy people do it. Thank you, Calvin, and I will follow up with Kylie to make sure we get all the information from CHS. But let's Kylie, I see your phone now. Are you there? Yeah, we're still.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, so we got to the polar plunge.
Okay. Yes, we have the Polar Plunge, and then we have a student dodgeball tournament and winter formal.
Great, thank you. And if there's anything else you think we missed, feel free to email it to the board. We would like to know what's going on. Thank you.
Yes.
So the next item on our agenda is public comments. Is there a script that needs to be read before public comment? I don't have it. I just have the understanding you've been provided the guidelines. That's what we do. Okay, so that we don't read the things ahead of time. Yeah. Okay.
And we do have both of them here,
Okay.
so I'm gonna let the first in if it's Massimo.
Okay, so we do have two public comments tonight. The first is from Massimo Bayones. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. Please correct me if I'm wrong. It's my understanding. Are you there? Massimo? You might be muted. Hello, Massimo? Is there a trick to unmuting a phone?
Star six.
Thank you. So Massimo, try *6. That may unmute you so that we can hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Perfect. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. So can I start my 2 minutes?
Hang 1 second. It's my understanding that you were provided the guidelines regarding public comment. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's correct. Yes, I read the guidelines and I've been following them.
Okay, and so as a reminder, you have 3 minutes to make your comments. I will alert you
Yes.
when you have 30 seconds left and your time is up with a tone. And
Sure.
following your comments, the board will have 3 minutes to ask clarifying questions. Before you start your comments, before you start your comments, please state your name for the record and state whether you reside within the school district boundary.
Yes.
Okay. You've got the floor.
Okay, thank you. I'm Massimo Bionas. I'm an associate professor at Oregon State University and father of 4 kids. 3 of my kids are enrolled in the Franklin School here in Corvallis. I would like to comment on math tracking and on adoption of the elementary curriculum of a controversial book. About the tracking, when I heard that math tracking was removed from the school, I was astonished. I read the equitable mathematics report from the school district, and I read scientific literature about tracking. It is true that tracking affects racial disparity. However, contrary to what it is indicating in your report or some of the news articles I have read, the most comprehensive meta-analysis study I found on math tracking published in 2016 clearly found that kids in accelerated math have improved academic achievements. The desire to remove or minimize the gap between students is a good desire, and I support it. But as also stated in your report, it is expected that teachers step up to make sure that all the kids receive a high-level math. All research paper I read emphasize that a common effort between school districts, teacher, and parents is essential to achieve high-level math for all kids. One reason I was astonished by the tracking is that came by surprise. No parents I met were aware of the fact that the school district was removing accelerated math. Not just parents, also teachers were unaware or were not involved in it. To finish, I think the school district made a big mistake of forcing this down on parents and school teachers. Thus, I do not see how you would achieve any success in this program without having parents and teachers working with you on this. I already see a decline in math proficiency in my kids in the elementary school. I'm very worried that this choice will end up in a disaster. The problem is that the one to pay the price will be our kids. I urge the school district board to consider what I have said and act. Now, my second point. I discovered the other day from my kids that he is reading aloud in class the book Stamp for Kids by Jason Reynolds and Ibram X. Kendi. I found the book to be very controversial and not a book to be read in class to kids, at least not without parental consent. The book has ideas that are very extreme and ideas that can really negatively influence the kids. It is not a historical book. It is a political and with very strong claims. The purpose of the book is not to inform, but to indoctrinate the kids to become activists. In our house, we educate our kids to recognize racism and call it what it is, a grave sin. However, we also teach our kids that each person has a dignity that is independent of the color of the skin. The book does the opposite. I urge the school district to reconsider the idea of having this book in the curriculum, or at least the school district should be involving the parents in such decision. And with this, I finish. Thanks for considering my comments.
Thank you. Does any board members have, or student representatives have questions? Calvin?
On your first point, is it my understanding that you were wanting the math tracking to be reinstated and for there to be the option to have higher level math for kids who are above grade level?
Yes, I would like the tracking to be reinstated, yes. But my desire is that the school district should be involved in the parents in the decision of the tracking or not. Because again, I understand the limitation of the tracking, but I don't see how the solution you are imposing is actually a good solution. I think it will be a disaster. So at the moment, I would like the tracking to be reinstated. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Massimo, if you're willing to email the board about not the titles of the books necessarily, but I would like you, if you could look into the board, Corvallis School Board guiding values, and if you could tell us which ones of the guiding values you feel the curriculum or the books violate. It would be appreciated if you can share the titles and any review and your understanding if you feel any of the guiding values are not met through that. It would be really good informing for us to understand your point. And you can find our email on the website.
Sure, I will do that. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Any other questions? No? Well, thank you very much for your comments. We always appreciate involved.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So our next public comment is from Troy Brandt. Are you here, Troy?
I am, thank you.
Great. So it's my understanding that you were provided with the guidelines regarding public comment. Is that correct?
That is correct.
As a reminder, you will have 3 minutes to make your comments. I will alert you when you have 3 seconds or 30 seconds left and when your time is up with the tone. Following your comments, the board will have 3 minutes to ask clarifying questions. Before you start your comment, please state your name for the record and state whether you reside within the school district boundary.
My name is Troy Brandt, and I do reside within the school district boundaries. Okay, thank you very much. Dear Board Chair Aladraba and Corvallis School Board members, on behalf of the Franklin School PTA, I would like to thank you for the opportunity to provide you with an update on the Franklin PTA's recent meeting with the district representatives regarding bond program funding for Franklin. Franklin PTA and Franklin Design Advisory Committee members met with the district to discuss concerns regarding the Franklin design plans. Superintendent Noss led the discussion, and we followed the topics listed in the PTA's January 6th written testimony to the board. Primary topics included improvements to the existing combined gym and cafeteria, the approximate 20% loss of floor area in the library due to the proposed ADA ramp, long-term and daily storage, as well as specialist office space, the outdoor patio, landscaping, covered play shed and playground improvements, elementary school and middle school bathroom improvements, and conversion of the existing antiquated locker rooms to middle school science lab. More broadly, we also discussed the overall bond planning and Franklin DAC experience. Franklin DAC members noted that the design review process would have benefited from better communication and transparency. During the meeting, we also reviewed funding disparity and equitability concerns regarding the combined gym and cafeteria space, which constrains program scheduling, food distribution, and student eating locations and timing. In response to these concerns, the district provided several commitments. First, Superintendent Noss noted that the district does not intend to mothball Franklin School and is instead investing in the school building. The gym flooring will be replaced, existing basketball backboards will be refurbished, and a retractable basketball hoop will be added to provide a near regulation middle school basketball court. Library improvements are constrained by past board priorities and how bond funds have been allocated, as well as by the building's architecture. Improvements include new paint, carpeting, shelving systems, and expanding capacity by removing outdated inventory. Storage limitations will be addressed during remaining design and construction. An essential storage facility will be made available to all schools. Specialist office space will be created through room reconfiguration and lockable cupboards in the staff lounge. The district intends to provide the all-user model bathroom in the middle school wing and a more standard bathroom upgrade that includes new flooring, paint, and fixtures in the elementary school wing. We did not have an opportunity to fully explore alternatives to the combined gym and cafeteria or develop solutions for the middle school science classroom improvements. We have a second call scheduled with the district tomorrow, February 4th, and we anticipate we will again discuss creative solutions to the concerns the Franklin community has raised. We appreciate the district's collaborative effort to improve the Franklin School bond projects, and we appreciate the board's continued interest in the matter. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions? No? Well, thank you very much for the update. That was
Okay, thank you.
helpful. Thank you. No more hearing, no more further comments. The public hearing is now closed. So the next item on our agenda is to reaffirm the year 2 of the 2021-2023 Benton Lincoln Educational Service District Local Service Plan. I have conflicting information on this. I have one place where it says first reading, and one place where it says action item. Is this our first? This is our first reading.
Yeah, it will come back.
Okay, so this is the first reading of this information. We will not be taking a vote tonight. But does anyone have any questions? We've heard some from Tanya about the ESD. I don't see her still here.
You want me to just to give you my perspective on it?
Sure, that would be great.
Okay, so I think that ESDs play a vital role in providing services to smaller school districts. And so what I have tended to do when I've been able to have votes, which is typically the way these service plans are developed by votes of superintendents, and being one of the larger districts in the region, and it's based on student count, those votes do have an impact. And so my philosophy has been that they again provide important services to smaller school districts and communities that can't bring on full positions. And so I feel like it's a responsibility to make sure that we're accounting for all districts in our region. And so I've tended to vote in those ways rather than ways that are only beneficial to a small group of school districts. So that being said, that's really what this local service plan looks like. And I feel good about the services that are incorporated in the way that ESD is meeting the needs of districts throughout the region.
Thank you for that perspective. Does anyone have any questions? Vince?
Historically, we have heard that there have been problems with the network service that we receive from the ESD. However, I would say over the past couple of years, I really haven't been heard things like I've had in years previous. I'm just curious, what level of services with network access are we getting from the ESD, and what are the quality of those services today?
I would say that I think that, coming through a year of distance learning, there were definitely situations that would come up where there was some frustration. And oftentimes that was felt at home as much as in the past that I've been felt in the school district. So those processes aren't perfect, but I would say that there's been efforts made over the last several years. And so while again, there are things that come up and challenges, overall, we're not in a situation like we were early in my career here in Corvallis, where we tended to struggle mightily. So I think progress has been made.
Thanks. That was my impression, but I wanted to confirm.
Tammy?
Well, I have comments and question. The comment is really appreciating Ryan, really walking the walk on equity, and students are in need. We should not look into district boundaries, and we should help those who need most. So I really appreciate you taking that stand, especially for rural and smaller districts that need the help most. The question I have is if there is anything we could do in this plan, or maybe the next 2 years plan, to make a dent in the crisis around special education, identification and diagnosis, and the waiting times that students are experiencing in special ed. Maybe if you can highlight what kind of help we're receiving and other districts are receiving from the ESD, and is there an opportunity for growth or for more support, and how would that look like?
So the theme that I see is that in the past, more of those evaluations were happening at the ESD in Albany. And there's been more of a transition back to have those evaluations completed in home districts, addressing things like transportation and some of those barriers. And so that's the area that I have seen progress in over the last couple of years that I feel good about. We also talked to staff about that referral process and recognizing that near the end of the year, those tend to fall into the beginning of the next year, and making some decisions about how to understand the ebb and flow and make sure that service evaluations get completed. So those are just a couple of examples of themes that I've seen over time. So that's what I could share.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. So this will come back to us for approval. This is the first reading. So if there are no more questions, we will move on to our bond update. And Dale and Kim.
Good evening.
So do you have a presentation tonight, or we just open for questions?
We do not. We had the written report and we have an action item tonight.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions on the report? Okay, does anyone want to make a motion to, the action item is for the contract to award solar installations at Linus Pauling Middle School and Sheldon Middle School. Does anyone want to make a motion to approve this item?
Madam Chair, I have a motion.
Sammy?
I move to authorize staff to execute a contract with EnergyWise Services for the Linus Pauling and Sheldon Middle School solar projects in the amount of $241,012.
Do you have a second?
Second.
So we have a motion to approve the solar installations at Linus Pauling Middle School and Sheldon. I can't find the motion written down, but to restate the motion. Yeah, please restate the motion. Thank you, because I've lost it. I'm keeping track of too many things tonight. I've got to get my system down.
It's been moved to authorize staff to execute a contract with EnergyWise Services for the Linus Pauling and Sheldon Middle School solar projects in the amount of $241,012.
Thank you. I will now entertain a final discussion. Any final discussion? No, with no final discussion, we'll now vote on this item. So let's start with Director Adams. How do you vote?
Aye.
Director Alagrapa?
Aye.
Director Jones?
Aye.
Co-chair or co-vice chair, Director Whitebeer?
Aye.
Co-vice chair Tomini?
Aye.
And I vote aye. The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, folks. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Right, yeah.
So the next item on our agenda is the education update.
All right, so I'm going to provide the education update tonight. Melissa is traveling, and so we've sort of been a team on this over the last several months, but tonight I'll be doing the honors. So one of the things that we talked about in preparing this was that we have spent a lot of time talking about COVID and COVID protocols and changes over time. So there'll be a little bit of that tonight, but I also am anticipating that we'll be spending less time talking about changes related to COVID in the coming meetings. This has been education updates is something that started really at the beginning of the pandemic and something that we've done along the way. So we'll start to modify how these presentations look as we move into the future. I only have a few slides, but I just wanted to provide a few updates, some COVID related, some not COVID related. So the first, moving to the first slide, one of the things that has changed last week was that the Oregon Health Authority made the masking requirement a permanent rule. I just want to express to the community that it's not a permanent rule, meaning going on into perpetuity. It's a rule that needed to be put into place on a more permanent basis based on timelines and legislation. So we will continue to watch and monitor changes that take place. But as of now, we're going to continue to wear these for a while longer. So again, I just wanted to make sure that people, as they read that, they didn't get a misunderstanding there. But that is, so for now, we're going to continue to wear them based on this rule. Again, a couple of additional vaccine clinics. February 4th at Shelburne Middle School. Again, that's the second clinic. We had one a couple of weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, in fact. And so this is the follow-up. So for second doses and for boosters. Again, we have the clinic there specifically because of the Adair area and some of our outlying areas, and just looking at vaccination rates. So wanted to highlight that. And then again, as Sarah shared at the end of the meeting last time, was about the Benton County Fairgrounds and the ability to get boosters there between 11 and 6 through a drive-through and walk-up option. So again, making sure that the community hears and understands that these options are continue to be made available. Some changes for us, and again, important just reminders, contact tracing. So when the rule that changed for us was that when people are securely wearing masks, that doesn't become a close contact, and so those aren't considered close contacts any longer. And so we're not in this situation where we would be calling on those situations that we would have been contacting families on in the past. And also, one other thing that I think is important is that if a family does do a test, even if it's a PCR test, to let our nurses know, because the sooner we know, the sooner we can move towards having kids return to school. And that's been something that has come up recently. And so again, something we want to highlight with the community, and something that we'll be providing some information around, but we also want to know that this is an outward facing meeting, and we wanted people to be made aware of that. I have some updates about our school renaming and the way that process is going. So I had a couple things that I wanted to share here that are exciting. At Bessie Coleman, they are now the Aviators. So they are no longer the Huskies. So Bessie Coleman Aviators, which is exciting. And they are working with the Evergreen Aviation Center to look at ways to bring experiences to students related to flight. So there'll be some exciting things that are happening at Bessie Coleman Elementary. At Letitia Carson, we have had an opportunity to have conversations with two artists, Joey and Jim Lavador, who are the great grandchildren of Letitia Carson. They are artists, and they live in Eastern Oregon. Jim lives on the Umatilla Reservation and is a member of the Wallowa tribe, and he is a painter. And you can see his work online. He's actually a famous artist. And his brother Joey does weaving and baskets. And so they are going to provide art to the school, an art installation in a way to honor their great grandmother. So it's an exciting time. Our partners at DLR, our architects, have been talking with them about the way to make sure that their art is shared within the school. I sat in on a meeting with them today. So that's an exciting opportunity to, again, make those connections between these new names and families. And then the same thing can be said for Catherine Jones Harrison. As you can see, Beth, the principal, and I had a chance to meet with Catherine. We have been in conversations with the Grand Ronde about an event happening at the school in honor of Catherine. And so we had hoped to do that at the end of January, but because of the case counts, we've moved it. But at the same time, it will be primarily between recognition with the tribe as well as the school, rather than a larger community event, again, based on all the factors that are in place. But again, things that we've talked about are a traditional salmon bake, so students have the opportunity to taste some salmon, a drum circle, some other ways to, again, bring learning related to the names of these incredible women to the students in the school. So it's been a lot of fun, and it's just been powerful to be able to say, yeah, we have made these changes, and your family is represented in the names of our school. So again, more to come on that. There'll be opportunities for board members to participate. Lou's had a chance to do that initially in some of the planning. So again, just great opportunities. And then the last, I've got two more things. One is, again, going to the next slide, just talking about our graduation rate. So those were announced at the middle of January since our last board meeting. And so our graduation rate for all students, four-year graduation rate was 88.2%. Last year it was 90%, which was an all-time high for the district. So still a strong number. A couple things that are really powerful and talk to out of the program, our DLI program, our dual language schools, is that our Hispanic Latino student graduation rate was 92%, and our former English language learners was 94.3%. So really strong results for those groups of students. On the next slide, you can also see that we have work to do supporting students with disabilities and their graduation in 4 years. The same thing with our students navigating poverty and students experiencing houselessness. Those are, again, student groups that we have work to do to increase those graduation rates and greater opportunities for those students. And we definitely recognize that. Finally, going back to this earlier, what we talked about, Black History Month. And these are the safe students at Linus Pauling Middle School. And they created a periodic table of Black history. The inspiration for the design is the periodic table of elements and the desire to encourage conversations about the contributions of African Americans in our nation. So each one of those on the table, as you can see in the top key, it talks about areas that those folks are known for, as well as who they are on that periodic table. And if you recognize the space, that's right when you come into Linus Pauling. And so it's a space that there is a lot of coming and going and students going back and forth. And so the SAFE students worked to put that together to share it with the whole school. So I thought that was another great way to, that they have taken Black History Month and personalized it to who they are as students, but also in a way that others can be engaged. So that was my education report, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that anyone has.
Does anyone have any questions for Ryan? I just want to say that I chaired the meeting when we voted to change those school names, and it felt like we were really doing something good then. And I just feel like it's even better now.
Totally.
This work, hooking up with the Evergreen is fabulous for the school that doesn't have the close local tie, and then having really honoring the families and the communities that we aimed to honor with those name changes, but really actually following through with it feels like we're sort of walking the talk.
Yeah, and I think that it is the part of the process that is so relational in terms of building relationships with these family members or descendants, and to be able to make sure that we are recognizing and honoring them in the way that we display their loved one's name on our school and what it means for students at the end of those spaces.
Yeah. Lou.
I was just going to say something similar. It's just absolutely amazing to see the learning that's happening. And so the impact for generations of students is just wow. And even just seeing the periodic table honoring, was it Black inventors and folk mostly? Is that what that was, right? That's also amazing. It's just like seeing how something that may seem small can have like a huge positive impact on learning. And it just is really moving to me. So I'm getting all like emotional about it actually. So I just wanted to say thanks for sharing that great work that's happening. And I know some of the other data points you provided are also points of pride and also like points that we have work to do, and recognize that as well. But those two pieces are really standing out right now.
Yeah, when we had a chance to meet with Jim Labrador today, one of the things he talked about is his just how those paintings came out in sort of a quick fashion for him. And it was just sort of this, I think it's, he just felt like, I guess I can't speak for him, but it seemed to me that he was talking about how they came to life in a different way for him. And I think that has a lot to do with it being a loved one and a descendant. So it was really fun to listen to him share his experience and his techniques.
Vince?
So I'd like to, is there any way that we can get a picture of the periodic table? I mean, I love the kids are there, but I actually want to read the content that they created. So I'd really love to get just a snapshot of that I can, zoom in and take a look at that. And, just what did they come up with? And I'm just, my curiosity is piqued. And Sarah, I really appreciated your comments about where the school renaming has gone, because I remember when we were first conceptualizing that resolution, it was about mitigating harm. And it's gone so much farther than that. It really has been transformational. It's done so much more good than I ever imagined that it could. And so I'm just really, I want to hand it to the superintendent for his leadership and just really going the extra mile and really, turning it in, something that could have been a one and done to something that has really, really done so much good for our community. So thank you so much.
So the next item on our agenda is the information with the local option levy renewal. We're actually a little bit ahead of schedule. Do people need a break?
Let's see, and yes.
Yeah, break would be
Yes.
great.
Okay, so why don't do we want to take 5 minutes or do we need 10 minutes? Do you say 5 minutes? Okay, 5 minutes. So the meeting is not adjourned. The meeting
Extended, these are on recess.
the meeting is in recess for 5 minutes. We will return at 8:11. session. The next item on our agenda is the local option levy renewal. There is not a presentation for this item, but if anyone has any questions, we do have Olivia with us.
I don't think you're, I don't think your sound's on.
Are we still on?
It's muted.
Yeah, I'm should be
Oh, we're on.
there.
Okay.
Can you all hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Oh, okay,
Okay.
sorry, that's my bad. I was gonna see the green light.
So there isn't a presentation on this item, but we do have Olivia here with us to answer any questions anyone has.
And Kelly as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Kelly.
Kelly helped with
Okay.
the survey development, and Olivia helped more with the background on the local option levy. So it's a joint report.
Sammy?
So I would like to ask Brian McCully about the responses. It's there in the reports, but to share to the community, what did change or what did we learn from the 809 responses? If you could summarize it and add anything to the report as well.
Sure, I can answer that. Thank you, Simon, for that question. So I think one thing that we learned is that we got a significant increase in responses over the last survey 5 years ago. So that was one improvement. We had, I think, 198 responses the last time, and this time we had over 800. So that's a really good return. What I would summarize in terms of some of the feedback that we got, folks seemed very specific to being really invested in kind of the areas of, let me scroll to that part in the report. So recruiting and retaining highly qualified staff got a lot of support. Alternative pathways and education options for students also received quite a bit of support. And then certainly in our areas where we had some kind of open-ended responses, the categories that we received a lot of input on were academic supports, mental health, staff, and class sizes. And so we heard a lot about kind of the effects of, distance learning and how that's impacted students, and an interest in better supporting students around mental health, better supporting and retaining our really highly gifted and amazing staff. Those, I think, were kind of the high points for me. Ryan, I don't know if you had anything to add.
No, I would just reiterate what Kelly shared. So the component of class size and retaining our class sizes was first in terms of highest priority in the survey results. Also, the elementary PE, music, and arts was another area that had lots of support. And I would say the area that we hadn't seen as much feedback on last time, 5 years ago, was around that staff retention and recruitment piece. And I think that is evidence of sort of what we hear regionally and nationally as we come out of the pandemic. So again, this is not this is a renewal that we would be moving forward with. And so understanding what those priorities are, and also recognizing that it's not necessarily additional funds, but how do we allocate those, hearing what the advocacy is in the community.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Vince?
Oh, and I'm just really was struck by the results, how close they aligned with where our allocations have been historically. But that's just an observation. My question is really for Olivia, and I'm thinking back, has this option levy represented about 10% of our operating revenue, historically? I know it has been in recent iterations, but going all the way back, what proportion has it represented?
It's definitely been in the 10% zone for the last couple of years. But the levy has started changing significantly about 4 years ago when real market values started increasing. Our gap got larger. And when the gap gets larger, there's less compression. And so I want to say, I could pull up when we did the renewal in 2016, and we gave the board a similar report. Let me see what that percent was back then. 6.5% of the general fund operating revenues. So it has become a larger percent of the general fund. That's also kind of hard too, because a lot of the additional state funding we've been receiving in the last couple of years has been outside the general fund as well. So that might kind of skew that a little bit as well.
But it does sound like we're becoming increasingly more dependent on this funding source, at least over time.
Yeah, I think if we look at the student investment account and the high school success grant and combine that with the general fund, I bet it's not that far off.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? No, Sammy?
Yes, a discussion or a comment is appreciation for this and intention to move forward with it if the board is agreeable to it, because it's important to maintain the level of service that we provide for our children and community. It's something that's unique about Corvallis. There are some districts that are underachieving in their results and they don't have a levy. So it's truly important for us to maintain this work, and in our political capacity as a board, I understand Dr. White-Bear will introduce a resolution in support of the levy after we ask the voters for the levy and to place it on the ballot. And I would encourage community members who are interested in helping our school system is to step up and help us out in advocating voting yes. So the board will have two capacities: asking the voters whether they should vote on it or not. That's our governance role, and our political role is to encourage people to vote yes. And I think both are going to be very important to maintain the good work that the district does.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm just echoing what Sammy said, and I would just say that this levy represents the commitment of our community to support education and how much it means for this community. And I have to tell you that there are many districts, many school boards and districts all over the state that are envious of the few that are lucky enough to have communities that make this type of investment in their education. It just really allows us to do more, and it makes the district more resilient when there are economic downturns. I know that this revenue was immensely helpful in restoring reserves as the district came out of the Great Recession. And so it's vitally important, and it's just an immense gift from our community.
Anyone else? Well, I want to thank Kelly and Olivia for this report. It's before I was on the board, I had no idea how the money that was in the local option levy got calculated, what all that meant, what compression was, and I've appreciated the clarity in which that's presented, and the work that went in here into this survey to really see what I am encouraged by the high number of people who participated in the survey, and in their interest in what's happening in our schools and their interest in their children's classrooms. So thank you all for this report and for the community members who participated. And let's put in the work so that we can make sure that this renewal happens, so that we can continue having this fund to add to our budgets to continue the good work of the district. So with that, let's move on to the next item on the agenda, which is consolidated action. As a reminder, the items under this portion of the agenda are for action. Does anyone have any questions of anything in the consolidated action? Sammy?
KGBB.
Okay. Anyone else want to pull something? No? Oh, Lou?
Yeah, I'm trying to find the number. I thought I wrote it down, but I did not. It is, wait, which one did Sammy pull?
KGBB is what,
That's the same one. Never mind, just kidding.
okay. So Sammy, what?
Well, I have a question and a comment. The comment is related that this is a policy of huge importance, and I want to thank you, Sarah, for your championship of this topic to make sure our students are safe and prohibiting firearms in a way that's under Oregon law and under constitutional law is important to keep students safe. The students are speaking out and are telling us that we need to act, and this is the least we can do. And I'm grateful for the opportunity for me to vote yes on it confidently and assertively to make sure that students' lives and staff lives comes before anything else. So I'm going to vote yes on it. My question would be, as we vote on it, the effect is immediate, correct?
Yeah.
Right. That's all I have. Thank you.
Lou?
I don't know if I missed it somewhere, but I know I had a question about this one and I didn't see
It's
any.
in the,
Is it in the cover letter? And I totally
yeah,
missed
it's the last paragraph.
Okay.
Paragraph 4.
We have so many that we're going over right now. I keep like losing it on the board book.
It says a concern raised by the school board was allowing law enforcement officers to carry a weapon on campus. OSBA advised that a firearm possessed by a law enforcement officer acting in their official capacity is a specific exemption to the Guns Free School
Okay.
Zone Act and the Gun Free
Yeah.
School Act. Yeah.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure that that was clear to the community, like where that was being informed from, and that it's part of a separate exception from the act itself or the acts themselves. And so that way people knew why that was in there. So I just wanted to be super clear just because of understanding some other feedback that has been raised in our district. So thank you for that moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I also am excited to pass this. This is one of those crazy things that before I started paying attention to gun laws and policies, I thought was already there. And it turns out it's not. So this is an example of local control of the local school board being able to adopt a policy that prohibits weapons from being carried on our campuses, even if you possess a concealed handgun license. So it's an important piece of legislation for us. So is there any more discussion about maybe the items in consolidated action? No. So does anybody want to make a motion? Look.
I just wanted to reiterate my excitement about the graduation exercises with the inclusion. To be able to vote on it tonight means a great deal to many students, and I'm excited that that's happening. The work cultural materials.
Thank you. Thank you for pointing out how important that is. Does anyone, Vince?
I move to approve consolidated action.
Second. So it's been moved by Vince and seconded by Sammy that we approve the items in consolidated action. I will now entertain a vote. Start with Director Adams.
Aye.
Director Algebra,
Aye.
Director Jones,
Aye.
Co-Vice Chair Tomini,
Aye.
Co-Vice Chair Whitebear,
Aye.
and I vote aye. Consolidated action passes unanimously. Next item on the agenda is consolidated information. As a reminder, the items in this portion of the agenda are for discussion only. We are not taking action on them tonight. Would anyone like to discuss an item in consolidated action? Right.
So Kristen Mahoney is with us. I can't remember if she was introduced last month, but Kristen works closely with Melissa. And so Kristen will be here tonight to take down any questions board members may have before we bring policy back for action.
All right, thank you for being here, Kristen. Lou.
I just wanted to thank you all for being proactive with the policies and making sure that they're consistent, because a lot of the revisions had to do with the gender identity and gender expression. And I think that that's showing the amount of care that's being put into the policy work to make sure that it's across the board reading the same. And so I just wanted to say thank you for that.
Anyone else have any questions about the items and consolidated information? No, moving along. The next item on our agenda is board member comments. Anybody have any comments? Sam.
I want to start with the comments. It's 8:30 and we're supposed to be at 9:20. So I want to salute the chair for expediently and efficiently running the meeting. And that's a testimony of anything that for her ability to run the meeting efficiently and get work done. Sarah, thank you for doing that. And it feels good to sit back and participate as a board member. Vince told me you'll need to find another job after you step down. And I'm really grateful for the responsibility that you're taking, and congratulations, Shauna, as well. I'm very grateful for this work and grateful for the words that have been said earlier today. There's lots of important work ahead of us, and better days to come, and it might be hard, it might be a little bit tougher. I'm really optimistic by the words of optimism, Sarah, that you mentioned around the daylight. I really look forward for the daylight, figuratively speaking and literally. And with that, yeah, I'm grateful for this work.
Shauna.
Thank you. Just to build on Sammy's comment as well, just a lot of gratitude, Sammy, for your past role serving as chair, and congratulations, Chair Finger McDonald, for assuming this new leadership role, and also just sharing gratitude for my fellow board members for all the shared learning that we've had so far. I have learned a tremendous amount in a short time on the board, and I really appreciate your vote of confidence in nominating and voting for me as a co-vice chair, along with Director and co-vice chair Whitebear. So I'm really looking forward to continuing to learn and serve the community in this role. So thank you all.
Lou.
I just wanted to again thank Sammy for being chair and for leading us through some tough times. It's we're still in it a little bit, but the last couple of years, it's always going to stick with me when I was like, how much work is it, Sammy? Do I have time for it? And you're like, oh, it's not too bad. It's how much you put into it. And I'm like, what's the worst that can happen if I say yeah? And then we entered a global pandemic. So the worst that can happen, one of the worst that can happen. And so that'll always stand out as like a moment of like humor in working with you as well. And so thank you for leading us, and Sarah for stepping up, and Shauna for stepping up as well. And I'm really excited for us as a board, and that Sammy could like make motions now too. So I seen you make your first motion. I seen that as you transition back to a director, and so and I'm just feeling a lot of gratitude tonight is all for the work that's being done and that's been highlighted in your reports, Ryan, and the bond update, and also the levy packet too, seeing how much community feedback. And I'm just hope the community continues to be engaged in whatever way they can, whether it's a small way or a big way, and because it's helpful to have your input on things too. So, yeah.
Thank you. Anyone else? Well, I want to say that Director Jones has totally failed in her job because at the beginning of our term together on the school board, we were driving to Roseburg for our retreat, and we said to each other, if I ever say I'm going to be board chair, don't let me do it.
Yeah, I remember that. Sorry. Yeah. Whoops.
Yeah.
I vaguely remember some other conversation where I was like, well, you know, if you end up board chair, I would be your vice chair. And then kidding. Nope. So yeah, I guess I kind of did. Well, thanks. Thanks, Sarah. I appreciate that.
Well, thank you all for putting your trust in me. I look forward to this. We really look forward to working with Lou and Shauna and our all woman team for this board leadership. Yeah, I expect I will learn a lot, and please let me know when I'm need to be doing something that I'm not doing. But yeah, thank you. And I think that, unless anybody else has anything else, we are adjourned for the evening.